Welcome to the April 15th meeting of Cook County Housing and Redevelopment Authority. It's 3 o'clock. We're on time. We have a quorum. Commissioners Olson, Hanson, O'Brien, Lemoore, and Gabler. And we, of course, welcome our county commissioners, Gamble and Sullivan, and appreciate their attendance and support. First item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Is there anyone who would make a motion to approve the agenda?
Move to approve.
I will second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion or concerns? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next is approval of the minutes of March 18th meeting. I know I've been through them, and we appreciate the professional quality of these minutes these days. And does anyone want to move approval of those minutes?
Also move. And I second.
Moved and seconded. Is any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? On to opportunity for public comment. There's not going to be any apparently, so we'll move to new business. First is Resolution 2613, designating Grand Marais State Bank as the institution of official bank depositories for 2026. Jeff, do you want to comment on that, please?
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. I hope you can hear me okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Hi, Jeff.
Loud and clear.
All right. Great. I just wanted to let you know that, as part of the 2025 audit, that we just completed the audit, or at least the preliminary version of the 2025 audit here in the last 2 weeks or so. One of the things that came up was that on an annual basis for statute, this reference there in the resolution, we have to designate a official bank depository for each year. And so I want to make sure that we got that accomplished for 2026 this year. So, pretty non-controversial. Grand Marais State Bank's been our official depository of HRA funds. I think almost the beginning of the organization, but we want to make it official today. And so before you use the resolution, and I can answer any questions about that.
Jeff, is there a reason other than tradition that we're using Grand Marais State Bank? Is the credit union eligible for our business? No? Has to be a charter
No,
bank?
it has to be a bank that can collateralize our deposits with securities, and credit unions can't do that.
Okay.
Yes, that's correct.
We started with a credit union when we first formed, and at about 6 months, somebody told us, gee, that doesn't work, and so that's why we're at Grand Marais State Bank.
Yeah.
And to our benefit, we do have some funds that do transfer back and forth, and sometimes we hold on to those funds a little bit longer, so the bank institution has to be able to provide that insurance and the actual insurance, and the Grand Marais State Bank has been accommodating that.
I'll move adoption of Resolution 2613.
Been moved. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed. On to Resolution 2614, approving development agreement with Nanapush LLC for the North Skogan housing project in Grand Marais. Jeff, go ahead.
Yeah, moving right along to the main discussion of the meeting today. Resolution 26-14 basically approves the developer's grant agreement with Nanapush LLC for the North Skogan project, which we've already been kind of working with HRA in 2022. But we want to make sure that there's that agreement in place between Nanapush and the HRA. And I apologize, their attorney just got that to me maybe a few hours ago with an update. I've had that update vetted through Christopher Verta over at Freiberger, our legal counsel. He gave the thumbs up, and so before you have kind of an emailed updated version of the Exhibit A, and I can go over that. It was an email that I sent out instead of an hour ago, it says compare results 15, 16 CDI. In it were some very minor changes. Some of them were just language changes, like for instance, landscaping, for instance, and that sort of thing. Included there. We just jumped down to Article 13, which is Article XIII. That was the major concern they had. What it comes down to is we want to make sure that if we're involved in this HRA with a project involving especially public funds, there's something more than just utilities in the ground. We want to start to see how it's possible, right? I think that's the goal of everybody that's working on this particular project, is that we want to see homes being filled with folks that want to come to Cook County, especially to work, workforce on that sort of thing. And so, if you look at Article 13, which is on page 13 of the email that I sent, basically what that is doing now is it's allowing for, indemnification of property and that sort of thing. And then it's also in Article 5, which is on page, I'm getting to it here, scrolling as fast as I can, Article 5, which is Article B, so people who are paying attention. Article B is on page 5 and continues on page 6, into 7 as well. And Article 13 references Article 5, so if you go to Article 5, it says the following, these are changes that have been made. A declaration against the property for the purposes of creating a project, a CIP or common interest community, in the form of a planned community under the Minnesota statute, which the declaration shall include the following. Short-term rental use shall be prohibited. That's I think what everybody was looking for in this development. Lot owners shall be required to commence construction of a residential dwelling on lot within 12 months after the date of the owner's acquiring title, and also that shall substantially complete the exterior building shell of such dwelling. That includes roof, exterior walls, windows, and doors within 18 months after the acquisition date. So those are the big ones. We wanted to make sure that the houses were being built and people weren't speculating on the land, sitting on it for years and years before they did something with it, whether to sell it or finally build on it. And so I wanted to make sure that that was in there. I articulated and pushed that as kind of our position. And I encouraged them to find some compromise that we both could agree to. They came back with that today. I think that this exactly kind of is a good compromise that we can all agree to. And I recommend that this Article A, Exhibit A, be entered in. We agreed to this today. I will give you a couple of more anecdotes real quick on push. There will be, of course, once the snow ever melts, the KTM will be back on the property and will be doing what they have to do to get the infrastructure in so that way they can build homes. These will be 12 new homes for Grand Marais. The goal is, of course, to sell on 12. And I do know that they are working to close on their first property with the idea that by June, that the closing will be accomplished and that by October, maybe into the early part of November, there will be the first completed home sale and first completed home. And that family of 4 will be moving into that home. And then there's also another house that there's some interest in. They're hoping to sell that as soon as they can as well. And it'll be the number 2 home. So of the 12 homes, there's potential to have at least 2 homes built by this year. And I'm encouraged by that. I think that that's exciting. And it goes to show you that single-family homes in Cook County, there is an interest.
Jeff, what's the, this is Chris O'Brien, what is the expected timing of the improvements work that's being funded by the HRA?
Yeah, so they're hoping to have the improvements work, of course, subject due to weather, snow and stuff, but they're hoping to have it done before June.
Jeff, Richard Olson, is what you're proposing, by the way, you're sounding very garbled here. It's difficult sometimes to follow you, but what you were proposing, is that enforceable? I think the intent is there, we want to see things being built, but is it even enforceable, that clause, 18 months?
Good question, Commissioner Olson. Sorry about the clarity of my phone call. I don't know how to really change it at this point, but I hope you can hear me okay. It is enforceable. That was something that our legal folks do weigh in on. It is, yeah, 15. But again, I think everybody wants to build these homes and get these homes off the ground as soon as possible. And so I hope we won't have to go that far in conversation, but it is enforceable.
Jeff, Chris O'Brien again, is the developer, you mentioned the two homes that are that are potentially to be completed, or construction will be completed this year. Do we have a estimate of the timing of sale of the other lots, of the 10 other lots?
What's the recourse?
So that would presumably start the clock, it would start the clock for the 18 months on those other lots?
Yeah, so the two that are being purchased are going through the process now. That clock will start as soon as, of course, the closing is completed. As far as the other 10, they're going to advertise. They're going to be very specific about advertising, that sort of thing. So those lots will be available. And their hope, of course, is that they will get them. Now, there are some unique challenges. I mean, interest rates are going up right now for construction loans and things of that nature. So there's always challenges, right, in housing. It's always a math problem whether or not the person can afford to, or what they want to do, or if they want to wait, and that sort of thing. But these two homes seem to be getting off the ground here pretty soon.
Well, let's see if there might be a motion on Resolution 2614.
I'll move to approve 2614.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Now, any discussion? I think we've had that, so hearing no more, I'll call the question. Those in favor of Resolution 2614, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. On to other business, the executive director's report. Jeff, you want to start with the Cedar Grove closing?
Yes. So on the 24th of March, we closed on the two property parcels at Cedar Grove Business Park in Grand Marais. And so that was something that was agreed to between the EDA and the HRA back in 2024. That got accomplished. We are now the owner of two more parcels for potential housing in Cook County. That's why I wanted to mention on that, but I just wanted to mention that is done now. The next one is the Birch Grove parcel, the 64 acres that we asked our county commissioners to consider giving to us for housing in the west end of Cook County. So the county commissioners did support that, and as it stands now, the auditor's office is working with with Bob Thompson to make sure that we have the state's processing a title for us. So we'll have title to that property, and so we'll be able to begin the process of at least acquiring that officially and moving forward with that parcel as part of the 29 acres, and I think the 64 acres being phase 2. We still have a lot of work to do to accomplish to getting a developer on that site. I have had some preliminary discussions with a couple of developers. There's a couple of people that hinted some interest, and a couple of other folks maybe aren't so interested this year because of commitments for 2027 already, but I do want to have a separate conversation at one point here with all of you to get us moving forward where we need to be identifying developers for 2027. The next one is the number 3 on my list is the fall project. That's the old Photo Motel across the street from the Inn, and then the gateway, I call it, of Grand Marais. We've had some developers conversations with Alex Ball on that property. The last I had a conversation with him, that he's working to solidify his capital stack. He's starting to provide us with some answers. He did ask for some specific information from him on May 15th, which is a month from today. And we're hopeful that we can get that information in the time passes. We do have to have construction on that site done by January 31st, 2028 for the agreement that the EDA has with the Minnesota Housing Finance Agency. You'll remember that they received a $1.3 million grant back in 2024, early 2025, and we want to make sure that that money is put to use for housing. The plan still is 16 units of workforce type housing, multi-family housing on that site.
Jeff, let me just make a comment or two. This is a situation where the EDA had to apply for the Minnesota Housing Grant, and but they are expecting us to carry the ball forward. And so Commissioner O'Brien and I have been attending calls with the EDA and with the developer. We're concerned because of the really lack of progress up to this point, but I think that we've put out specific requests for, as Jeff mentioned, further information on the development and what their proposal is and who they're involved with by May 15th, and we expect some answers. But in spite of the fact that Duval has had the site and it was involved in the original proposal, the grant and the Minnesota Housing Commitment is to the EDA and the HRA, not to the developer. So we do have some rights there if we're not seeing enough progress to take some action, and it's a concern, and we will stay on it. So I think that's some key information to have, and the city was concerned as well and has been involved in some of those calls, both the mayor and the county, the city manager. So I think we're going in the right direction, but we really need to get this resolved, because if you think about it, it sounds 2028, but that gives you 2027 to get the thing built, and up to that point to get it designed and priced and all the other aspects of development. And so we need to see some action. So that's my comments on it. Anybody else got a comment or concern? Okay, Jeff, keep on going.
Well,
Please.
Chair Gabler, thanks
Please.
for adding this comment to that discussion point. The next point of my director's report is recent legislative activities. The Duluth Chamber of Commerce had their Capital Day Bill. Lake County and Cook County always tag along. We had a great opportunity to meet with a lot of folks, legislative apparatus, House and Senate, from both parties to talk about some of the big action things that are important to the county. Number one, of course, is flood treatment for Grand Marais. And there's also a conversation about the extension of the Economic Trail, and of course the last 10 months of the trail were also discussed as all three really important pieces to capital investment in Cook County. There was an opportunity for us to move from floor to floor and room to room to meet with other folks. I don't know, maybe it's a force of habit. I just knew where to go, so I went, and Mayor Ben followed me, and the rest of the group went downstairs to wait for somebody else, and I ended up getting an extra 10 minutes with Mayor Benson, with the DSL chair of the Capital Investment Committee. So I thought that was a good thing for us to have that extra 10 minutes. It gave us more opportunity to talk about why it's so important to have wastewater system dollars in that potential capital investment bill that might be coming up soon. Overall, that day that next week was the coalition of Greater Minnesota cities and the Greater Minnesota Partnership Day at the Capitol, and so I attended that day at the Capitol as well. Great opportunity for me to talk a little bit about housing in particular, and why it's really important that we have dollars that could be used for things like infrastructure and expansion of that program in terms of the amount of dollars. So cities like the city of Grand Rapids apply for those dollars specifically to be very specific and precise and prescriptive about where those investments go in a community like Grand Rapids, specifically for new housing development and things of that nature. I actually also had a chance to testify in both the House and the Senate Housing Committee and Capital Investment Committee, respectively, to specifically weigh in on Senator Grant Hochschild's proposal, which is exactly what it was, for $15 million for investment in infrastructure for housing in Greater Minnesota, which any dollar that can go to Greater Minnesota is a dollar that we need investment for housing. And well received. It was good that the company in other cities across the Greater Minnesota apparatus in Minnesota that we could kind of say, hey, look, this is important across the entire northwest, southeast spectrum of Minnesota. So we've been to be at the Capitol a couple of times. It's good to participate, and hopefully that will be fruitful at the end of the session, which is coming up here next month. They're about a month away from being done with all the work that they have to do. I touched on it briefly, but number 5 on my report is the audit, the preliminary audit. Worked with Megan Hansen over at Red Cap, and Megan gave me green check marks by the end. I gave her all the information that she needed to got it. She transferred all of that information to Andy Gehring, and email is to that, of course, to double check everything. And otherwise, we'll be done much further ahead of schedule compared to last year with that audit. So I'm looking forward to that being done as well. And really, that's all I have for my report. My day.
Thanks, Jeff, and thanks for all the work you're doing at the Capitol, for one thing, and also for getting an audit done. It seems like greased lightning this year compared to our previous experiences, so that's appreciated as well. We'll move on to committee reports. Let's see, the Finance Committee might have comments on the money spent this month.
It's really immaterial. I mean, it's the normal office expenses, rent, but no other extraordinary expenses this month. The balance sheet, this HRA is still in a strong financial position in terms of its balance sheet, with so really nothing, no change from last month.
Any questions on the finances here? Any other commissioner items that they'd like to bring up? Commissioner Sullivan.
I'd like to share something, thank you, Mr. Chair, from the Capitol. I was there last week for several days, second time, and we'll be going down again the last week of April to hopefully seal a deal. But I wanted to let you know I dropped in on a couple of discussions related to housing. And the Housing Committee met actually a week ago and considered a bill for a constitutional amendment focused on housing, and it would add 0.3% on sales tax statewide to provide additional funding for home ownership, rental homes, and housing stability. So we will see where that goes. And then I also listened to a discussion on House File 2462, which would appropriate an additional $20 million of one-time funding to workforce housing development in particular. And the focus is on rural Minnesota. So although that's not a tremendous amount when you spread it out statewide, it's a help. And it was laid over for possible inclusion in an omnibus bill. So that's the current status.
Thanks very much. Any, Commissioner Gamble?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I would say relative to what's happening at the legislature and monitoring that rural dollars that are being allocated or spoke for, trying to create a funding mechanism to help rural Minnesota is always a battle between funding mechanisms that is trying to help the metro area, and it's very frustrating. So our voice needs to be there, and I always encourage that we need to confront, but do that respectfully, but our voice needs to be heard. But when we see the allocation of dollars that are trying to help a metro area that has much more resource than we do, it gets frustrating. The other thing I would say is that there was a meeting last week, and I mentioned this to Jeff in a conversation I had with him with the ARDC, and that was by parties, leadership throughout the county. It's something that the Arrowhead Regional Development does in order to position themselves for federal funding and federal funding dollars. And so, again, leadership throughout the county participated. I'm not sure why the communication didn't necessarily, get to our board here, but the focus was housing. Primarily, the discussion was housing issue. And so it continues to be something. Commissioner Mills, who attended, said that we are doing something, we're demonstrating, we're trying to do something, but and we're moving forward to try to really understand the housing issue in the context of our community locally, so that we can address those issues that people express that we need to meet this demographic that maybe we're not meeting. So.
Thanks,
And the
Commissioner.
minutes that come back from that, I mentioned to Jeff, I said, I'll be sure that information gets forwarded. So.
That's great, and I was going to say, Jeff, I think we want to stay in touch with ARDC, and, as well as the state legislature, and it's a source of funding that we've had some before, and we need to, the one thing I know is if you don't ask, you're not going to get.
Yeah.
And it's pretty simple, so we need to stay in there. But thanks for the information to both the commissioners. Commissioner Sullivan.
Just to give you a heads up too, on the 17th of June, I was just invited. I hadn't been invited to the last meeting, but I was just invited yesterday to the one on the 17th at Cook County Higher Ed. I think it's like at 2:30 in the afternoon. I'll forward it on to all of you so you have that as well. But there will be, I don't know if it's a follow-up discussion or another discussion kind of in the same vein of thinking, but I'm glad that I was invited. I will be attending, and absolutely there's no partner that we could definitely work with.
Great. Commissioner Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a little update, if you didn't tune in to the county board meeting yesterday, one of the things we did is have a public hearing on fees, and the fees for developing the Roseau district for the permitting and the plating has been reduced to try to incentivize. So I wanted to make sure you were all aware of that. And thinking of Roseau, one of the models at Mink Ranch is on the market right now, and so if you haven't had a chance to actually go through, this particular one was built by Chris Skildum, it gives you an idea of a property that is affordable, that has that shared septic and utilities, but I would encourage you to take a look at it online, or you can look at it here if you'd like after the meeting, but really exciting to look at it, and the price, so we know what the prices are here in Cook County, is $364,900 for a 3-bedroom, 1-bath.
Wow.
So,
Hear that, Jeff?
Well,
And Commissioner Sullivan, where's that's just Mink Ranch?
that is
What-
Mink
what's the-
Ranch, it's in Lutzen,
it's in the prestigious
Just east
West
of the ski
End.
hill.
Okay,
yeah.
got it.
265 Mink Ranch Road.
Wow.
And I've-
But very well designed, very well built, and it gives you an idea that we do have people here locally that can build something affordable for us.
It's a data point that the model is workable.
Exactly.
Well, and we'd note that Mr. Skildum was a original commissioner of the HRA, served for a year, and then decided he was better off doing what he's doing. And as a representative of District 5, I can tell you, I've been up to Mink Ranch Road a number of times, and it is exciting to see it in a real, what a Rosso might look like, and so it's been terrific. Commissioner Gamble?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. On that point, the last week or so, I've been looking at modular home construction throughout the world, and there are some impressive modular homes. And when we think of modular homes, we think in a context that's unusual from what we're seeing current day. And when you think of tiny homes and the refinements that have been put in place in that, it would seem to me in our community resourcefulness that we would be able to get a plot of land, do the infrastructure, and negotiate with a modular home supplier to bring in units that would be under $200,000 and units that people would clamor for. And if you look at what it is you want to build in a resident that meets needs in our community, cold environment, everything else, and you do that intentionally with the balance of the financial affordability, it's amazing what I have seen. And I think we would be in a good position to look at things through that lens and negotiate a price that would make things truly affordable.
Well, that probably is something we ought to be thinking about for Birch Grove, for one place, and there's plenty of property there, and I think it can accommodate multiple types of housing uses, and that would be one, so thanks for the update.
And Mr. Chair, can I add something to that real quick?
Yes.
In the hearing, the first hearing that I had in the Senate Housing Committee for Senator Hochschild's bill, one of the questions specifically was, does Cook County or Grand Marais in particular have any sort of policies or adoption of allowing ADUs in people's properties and that sort of thing? So, an accessory dwelling unit could be like a house that is a kind of from the backyard, and they could be renting that out for an individual or a veteran or UTEC they wanted to, who they wanted to rent to. But the city adopted that a couple of years ago, and I don't know that there have been many ADUs constructed in Grand Marais State. But if that's something that we want to start supporting in HRA with possible funding or some sort of resources that are available, maybe a community conversation with the city council in mind as a partner and that sort of thing, I'd be happy to do that too. These ADUs can be tiny homes. They don't have to be a second house on that site, but if it's something that will help us alleviate the housing crisis that we have in Cook County, definitely this is something that we maybe should be having some further conversations about. And I'm glad that Commissioner Gamble brought this up.
Yeah.
Commissioner O'Brien?
Just following up on that, I think there's an educational opportunity for all of us. I mean, I think that both the work that Chris Skildum is doing and the work that modular home suppliers like Dynamic is pretty inspiring. And so, I think that we have an opportunity. I think I would support invitations to Chris if he could come and give a presentation, or if we include in our monthly meetings some educational component about some of these efforts. I have one other the potential speaker, that the head of the building efficiency program for Fresh Energy, which is a nonprofit focused on environmental issues, is based in Grand Rapids, very focused on outstate efficiency improvement for small houses, trying to come up with a design, or has implemented some designs that he claims are no additional upfront cost and much more efficient. operations. But I think there's an opportunity for us to get to share the expertise of some of these in some of these care areas that we've been talking about.
Thanks, Commissioner O'Brien. You know, the thought also occurs that maybe one of the important things with ARDC is to put these ideas out there, because the more volume we can offer anybody in the market area, the better, because one of the aspects with the modular construction is the transportation costs of getting it from a factory to the site, and so there's a lot of potential here. Indeed, we need to be working on those, so.
We have the model from the Heights. We know how to do it in volume.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I know how to stage them all.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's not like we
Well,
haven't
just
done it.
adopt Gary Left to be the person that we go to for every other.
I think his rates have gone up.
Well, what I would say, I appreciate the recommendations, and I will be following up for future meetings. I'm still trying to track down some folks that provide a presentation to us about potential for co-op conversations as well.
Yeah.
And that hasn't left my to-do list as well. So in the future meetings, I plan to have more of those educational conversations, and hopefully that will spur some new opportunities for Cook County as well.
Very good. Any further Commissioner items? Commissioner Hanson?
Yeah, I'd like to bring up the subject again of the local housing trust fund.
Yes.
And feeling impatient about that, I actually dove in on my own doing research on the statute, and spent a lot of time reading, and I can't find anywhere where it says, I can't find anywhere in the statute where it says HRA members can't solicit donations. In fact, it's in the statute, it specifically says they can solicit donations. And I also didn't find anything, you know, the statutes I was finding that covered this were from 2019, 2018. I didn't see anything really new on this. My intent was to kind of do some research so maybe we could narrow down the question to the county attorney so we could get an answer, so we could move ahead. But I was wondering, I was proposing, and obviously I'm not a lawyer, and so I could well have screwed this up, but it looks to me like we could really move ahead based on what I unearthed. But I was wondering if it's okay with the commissioners if I could meet with you, Jeff, when you're up the next time, spend a couple hours together going through. You can check my work and we can go through the statute and at the very least narrow down our questions. So it'd be not such a daunting task for the county attorney. We can get an answer and get this thing up and running. But, you know, it occurs to me we kind of have one already with the Cascade money.
Mm-hmm.
So we're sort of doing it already, and either we're already doing it and we can just continue to do it, or we're kind of at risk by doing it without proper authorization, but we should resolve it one way or the other. So, but yeah, I was surprised that I could find nothing prohibiting HRA commissioners from soliciting private donations. In fact, it's encouraged by the statute, the way I read it.
Well, we like your reading.
Yeah, so are you willing to do that, Jeff? And are the commissioners okay with that if we just do a little work group and bring back the report?
Yeah, Chair Gabler, if I could add a couple comments to that.
Sure.
Okay, there was a statute change for local housing trust funds back in 2025 at the end of this session. I'll tell you that, Mr. Hanson. What it basically had said before 2025 was that only county commissioners could create local housing trust funds, just the same as they could create HRA.
Jeff, we're having trouble hearing you. Again, if you could start that over again.
Yeah. Can you hear me any better now?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, just slow down and speak clearly, and then we'll probably get it.
Yeah. And so in 2025, the legislature passed adoption of new rules for the construction of local housing trust funds. Before that, only county cities could create that. But now, in 2025, they allowed some ambiguous language allowing for us to do it ourselves. And that's what could go ahead without county attorney saying, yes, let's do this. However, we're the first, I believe, in the state that would be doing this. And so I want to make sure, and I think that was the direction the board, the HRA board wanted to go, is to get the non-support of the county attorneys in this. And so that's what I've been doing. I spoke with our county administrator last week in a meeting about this specific issue. She said she was going to reach out to Attorney Peterson, see where we're at on that. You might remember that I asked the county attorney to weigh in back November on this specific issue. So I get the frustration and I get the wanting to move forward. I do. It's just that I know that also her plate is full of a couple of pretty high-profile cases being down in assistance attorney did help, I don't think. And honestly, you know, this is kind of new territory for everybody at once. I don't know, and I've asked about the potential to maybe get someone else to weigh in on this that's not the county attorney. But realistically, we want to have as much local support as possible. I believe at some point we'll be asking the county commissioners to support it as well through resolution, but it's important for us to get this right because we're the first, and I want to make sure that we're not the poster child for how to do it wrong, you know. But I'd be happy, Commissioner Peterson, to sit down with you and talk with you or anybody else on the board about how we move this local housing trust fund forward. Specifically, you were mentioning something about soliciting contributions. Honestly, I don't know a statute. You know, you probably found the statute that I'd be looking for specifically. If it does encourage, then I think that's where we go. Let's double check that, make sure that you know, like maybe our attorney can verify that that is exactly right, and then go forward on that. But I think this local housing trust fund, it does need to get done sooner than later, just because we're in an opportunity where there's still money available for us for matching funds, and then of course there's really an opportunity for us to do good with what we can by creating this local housing trust fund to begin with.
So I think you're correct that they changed the statute to say that HRAs could form their own local housing trust fund. But I kind of blew past that because I was like, our county board would support us in doing that. We don't have to break new ground and be you only do that if you're in conflict with your county board, which we're not. So we could just ask the county board to create it on our behalf, and they could do that very easily. And that's well settled. I mean, that's been done many, many times. I don't see any advantage. As far as I can tell, there's no advantage to the HRA creating it on their own.
Commissioner Gamble?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I think, and I appreciate your work in investing this, I think, informing, and certainly as a board, helping inform the board as a whole, clarifying intent as to what our intent is, and the scope in which it gets applied is hugely important. With that clarification, looking at state statute, the parameters in which that could be played out is an important element. If we are in fact, first to approach this, then there might not be any evidence of it or any reference to it in state statute. However, you can either borrow similar information from other things, or you can look at other states and look at what they've done to help provide context, if in fact we don't have our own.
There are dozens of local housing trust funds in Minnesota.
Sure.
That have been around for a decade or more.
Yeah.
So it's not a new thing.
Yeah.
And
Well,
pretty easy to do, and there's a handbook. You can look it up
Yeah.
if you just want to look up the handbook.
And having all of that so that we're clear on intention, and then looking at the context, what we learn from others in that. And I think, as you referenced, the agreement on the part of the board in proceeding, and there are many organizations that come to the board, in order to enable either pass-through dollars or other things in this regard. So once we've got all of that in place, I think coming before the board, we certainly would support it. But.
Commissioner Sullivan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One of the things I think we could all do as homework, if Commissioner Hanson is going to be meeting with Jeff is to educate ourselves by reading that manual. And so if you go to the Local Housing Trust Fund online, they have the manual there. It's 80 pages. And I think if we could each read that thoroughly and then be prepared for Bill and Jeff to lead us through a discussion, that might work really well for next month.
Super.
Thank you.
So let me know when you're going to be in town, Jeff.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, to put a finer point on it, I'm not, definitely, forgive me if anybody thinks this, and I don't want this to be the case. I don't want to throw that at their county attorney. She has a full plate, and she's doing the best she can at the moment. And so, I personally think that, you know, whenever we get this, we get this, and it's very important for us to get it right. The county commissioners that I'm fine going in that direction. It's just that because the state statute had changed in 2025, allowing us to do that. When I spoke with the Minnesota Housing Partnership on how to create this in the first place and to get their insight on it, they vetted the process. They saw the guidelines that we created, and they looked through the guidelines, supported it, and they directed me specifically to work with the county attorney to make sure that it also gets the approval of the county attorney. So that's kind of been that process. You might remember back in early fall, we had talked about the process of getting this going, looking at other counties that had model language for us to look at as well, like Crow County and the other counties. It's just kind of, it's a newer thing for us to have to be able to do it ourselves. If the county does it through their process, the county attorney is still going to need to look at it. So I think we're kind of in the same position. If the county commissioners are doing it or we're doing it, they want to make sure that the county attorney is setting the actual resolution. That's what it really comes down to, the resolution itself. We just want to make sure that we're engaging properly in creation of this. So, happy to visit with you all or individually, and we'll just, I mean, the eyes on the price, and focusing on this one since, like I said, November, and before that, obviously, with our strategic planning early this summer, and looking forward to getting it accomplished so we can get going.
And not to belabor this issue, but another option is to form a 501c3, which can also be done by the county. And I think we should at least look at that to see, typically that's a way of bringing in other partners.
Right.
And might be advantageous in this case, but, so that's another line of research I'd like to follow, just so we make sure we cover all the bases.
And Mr. Chair,
That's unique too, because that will allow us to take charitable contributions differently. And I think that there might be some advantages to doing that as well.
This is just a thought, but I know that on occasion, the county attorney engages an outside counsel who's got a specific expertise. I mean, I see it more in trials particularly, but I'm wondering if there might be an attorney who would actually volunteer some time to the county attorney who's got expertise in this area. It's just a thought that occurs to me. I don't know who that attorney is, but there have got to be attorneys around who have been involved in the creation of these. So, for the thought, Commissioner Gamble.
yeah, thank you. Yeah, certainly the board would require that our county attorney would have to give blessing to whatever, action we would take. To your comment, I would agree that if we feel this is an issue that we want expertise to make sure that we set down the proper foundation on it, that we often do, go outside to do that. Given that that's the position and responsibility entrusted to her, we would ask her to give the direction, but we'd also, the board would have to say this is important enough that we'd be willing to do that. And I'm sure that there are, firms like Larkin Hoffman that have done this in many, many instances and certainly have the credibility. But
So if we can identify one or two of those firms that have actually done this, and I was even thinking about our own attorney Freiberger in Duluth. They're what we call white shoe law firms, and it might be helpful. So, Jeff, if you know of anybody, or if you can find out from MHP, for example, it might be a way of going through this, to do this. So,
I'd
Yeah,
suggest,
that's a good point too. I did actually, Chris Verda and I talked today specifically about that previous resolution that we passed with the band budget or our slogan project. About that a couple of months as well. Keep looking into it as well. And so there might be some potential that have some movement through that as well. Yeah, it's interesting, that's for sure.
I'd suggest we dive in first and really do our own research first, just to make sure we're asking the right questions.
Exactly right.
very good.
So let me know when you're in town, and we'll knock that out.
Roger that. Yeah.
Any further thoughts or comments on the Housing Trust Fund or any other matters commissioners have?
I did hear a comment at a public hearing recently that, that we've built 2 apartment buildings and neither one of them are full. And I'm just like, ah! So maybe next time you're on the radio, you can explain why Gunflint View, even though they're technically not 100% full, no 51-unit apartment building is ever 100% full, because people move in and out, and there's a month in between, so. But, it's unfortunate perception that people have, and really unfair to criticize the Heights for not being full. They just opened 3 weeks ago. They're way ahead of schedule of where the rental agent for the Gunflint View for the parent company told me that filled faster than any of their other 10 buildings. So,
Good to get that
Yeah.
information out. Commissioner Gamble?
Yeah, and for those that listen to this board meeting, that there is only one available at Gunflint View, and that is a subsidized. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's the reality. There's one, and as you suggest, I mean, there's rotating.
first turn, yeah.
Any other thoughts or concerns? If not, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Also move.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded. Anyone not in favor? I would think we'll just let it go. It's adjourned.
Unanimous.
We're adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff.